Your phone is not just a device. It is the most sophisticated behavior modification machine ever built. And it was designed by some of the brightest minds on the planet, specifically to make you unable to put it down. Stay with us and subscribe so you never miss what comes next. This is not about willpower. It is not about discipline. It is about neuroscience. Your brain is being exploited. And the people doing it understand your biology better than you do. Let's start with dopamine, because this is where everything begins. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. That is one of the most widespread misconceptions in popular science. Dopamine is the anticipation chemical. It is released when your brain expects a reward, not when it receives one. This distinction is everything, because it means your brain is not addicted to what your phone gives you. It is addicted to the possibility of what your phone might give you. Every time you pick up your phone, your brain releases dopamine in anticipation. A notification, a like, a message, something new. And that unpredictability is not a flaw in the system, it is the system. Now let's talk about variable reward schedules, because this is the mechanism that makes everything else possible. In the 1950s, psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered something that changed the understanding of behavior permanently. He found that the most powerful way to maintain a behavior is not to reward it every time. It is to reward it unpredictably. A rat that receives food every time it presses a lever will stop pressing when the food stops. But a rat that receives food randomly, sometimes after one press, sometimes after 20, will press the lever compulsively, almost without stopping. This is called a variable reward schedule. And it is the foundational architecture of every social media platform ever built. Your Instagram feed, your Twitter scroll, your TikTok algorithm. All of them are Skinner boxes, designed to deliver rewards unpredictably, so your brain never stops anticipating. Now let's talk about how this was designed deliberately. This is not an accident of technology. It is an engineering decision. Former Google design ethicist Tristan Harris testified before the U.S. Senate that Silicon Valley companies have entire teams dedicated to what they call persuasive technology, the deliberate engineering of products to maximize time on device. The metrics these companies optimize for are not your well-being. They are engagement, retention, and return rate. Your attention is the product. Your dopamine system is the mechanism. And your time is what is being sold to advertisers. Now let's talk about what this is doing to the brain at the neurological level. Every time your phone delivers a reward, a like, a funny video, a validation, a small amount of dopamine is released. Over time, with repeated overstimulation, the brain adapts. It downregulates its dopamine receptors. It produces less dopamine in response to the same stimulus. This is called tolerance. The same mechanism that drives drug addiction. The sessions get deeper. The phone gets harder to put down. And the real world, with its slower, quieter, less engineered rewards, starts to feel flat, boring, unrewarding. This is not laziness. It is neurology. Your baseline dopamine sensitivity has been recalibrated by the device in your hand. Now let's talk about the attention system, because phone addiction is not just about dopamine. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for sustained attention, impulse control, and long-term decision-making. It is the most recently evolved part of the human brain. And it is the most vulnerable to disruption. Every notification is a manufactured interruption. It pulls the prefrontal cortex out of whatever it was focused on and redirects it toward the phone. Research from the University of California, Irvine found that after an interruption, it takes an average of 23 minutes for the brain to return to its original state of focus. Every notification is not a small thing. It is a 23-minute cognitive tax. The average person receives between 65 and 80 notifications per day. Do the math. The focused attention your life requires is being systematically dismantled, one ping at a time. Now let's talk about the algorithm. Because this is where phone addiction becomes something more targeted than a simple dopamine loop. Modern social media algorithms do not show you content randomly. They build a precise model of your psychological profile. They know which content makes you angry, which content makes you anxious, which content makes you feel inferior, which content you cannot look away from, and they serve you more of it. Not because it is good for you, Because those emotional states produce the highest engagement rates. Outrage keeps you scrolling. Anxiety keeps you checking. Comparison keeps you coming back. The algorithm is not trying to entertain you. It is trying to find the emotional state that maximizes the time you spend on the platform, and then keep you in that state as long as possible. Now let's talk about what this is doing to the brain's social architecture. Human beings evolved in social groups of 150 people or fewer. Our brains were calibrated for that scale of social information. Social media exposes the brain to the social information of thousands or millions of people simultaneously. Status updates, achievements, bodies, lifestyles, relationships. The brain's social comparison system, which evolved to assess your standing within a small tribe, is now running continuous comparison against an algorithmically curated highlight reel of the entire species. The result is a chronic sense of inadequacy that has no resolution, because the comparison never ends. And the highlight reel is never representative of reality. Research published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology confirmed a direct, causal link between social media use and increases in depression and loneliness. Not correlation, causation. Confirmed through controlled experimental design. Now let's talk about sleep. Because phone addiction has a specific and devastating effect on the brain's recovery architecture, but the sleep disruption from phones goes far beyond blue light. The emotional and cognitive arousal produced by social media content, the outrage, the comparison, the anxiety, activates the stress response system, cortisol rises. The nervous system moves into alert mode. You cannot transition from that state into deep restorative sleep. The physiological conditions for sleep require safety signals, and a brain that has just spent an hour processing algorithmically optimized emotional content is not receiving safety signals. The phone is not just keeping you awake with light. It is keeping your nervous system in a state that is neurologically incompatible with rest. Now let's talk about what actually works, because the solution is not just putting the phone down. The first intervention is environment design. Willpower fails against engineered addiction because willpower is a finite resource, and the algorithm has infinite iterations. The phone needs to leave the bedroom entirely. Charge it in another room. The friction of physically getting up to check it is enough to interrupt most compulsive check cycles. Every notification is a dopamine trigger. Removing the trigger removes the craving before it starts. The second intervention is dopamine reset. Your brain's sensitivity to natural rewards, conversation, nature, food, accomplishment, has been depressed by chronic phone overstimulation. A dopamine reset involves deliberately reducing high stimulation inputs for a defined period. No social media. No algorithmic content. No infinite scroll. The discomfort of the first 48 to 72 hours is real. The brain will produce cravings, boredom, and irritability. That is withdrawal, and it confirms the dependency was real. After 7 to 14 days of reduced stimulation, the brain's dopamine receptors begin to upregulate. Natural rewards start feeling rewarding again. The world stops feeling flat. The third intervention is replacement, not removal. The brain does not do well with pure removal of a behavior. It needs a substitute that meets the same underlying need. What is the phone actually providing? Stimulation. Social connection. Escape from discomfort. Information. Each of those needs can be met by something that does not exploit the dopamine system. Physical exercise for stimulation. Real conversation for connection. Discomfort tolerance training for escape. Books for information. The goal is not to become someone who never uses their phone. The goal is to become someone whose brain is not controlled by it. Here is the final truth, and it is the one the industry does not want you to hear. You are not addicted to your phone because you are weak. You are addicted because you are human. And your humanity, your social needs, your curiosity, your reward system, was studied, modeled, and deliberately exploited by engineers who were paid to do exactly that. Understanding that does not remove the addiction, but it removes the shame. And it redirects the response, from self-criticism to system redesign. Your brain is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. The problem is that someone else designed the conditions it is operating in. And you can change the conditions. If that made you look at your phone differently, Subscribe to Daily Dose of Knowledge. Drop a comment with how many hours of screen time you had today. And explore our videos on psychology, neuroscience, human behavior, society, and self-help. There is always something here that will shift the way you think.